Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek Rewatch Podcast, where we are rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise, starting at the beginning of official chronology, working all the way through, and talking about it. We are currently on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We just started. We're on season one. Today, we're talking about season one, episode two, called Children of the Comet. Ahoy, Jason. How are you?
Good. I've got a question for you, buddy.
What's up, man?
Do you consider yourself a reasonable man?
Nice. I do actually. I try to
I
anyway,
know you, yeah.
but you know, I'm a little kooky. I'm currently in my laundry room, as you can see, for people watching this on YouTube. So anyway, my name's Gabe, and yeah, we're getting into Strange New Worlds. It's exciting times for us. Anytime we start a new show, it's exciting, and we're happy. In universe date of 2259. For people who don't know, this is before the original series, and Captain Pike is at the helm of the USS Enterprise. They are exploring the galaxy, and so far it's been great. I'm going to do my short synopsis courtesy of fandom.com. Thank you to fandom. And here we go. While on a survey mission, the USS Enterprise discovers a comet is going to strike an inhabited planet. They try to reroute the comet, only to find that an ancient alien relic buried in the comet's icy surface is somehow stopping them. As the away team try to unlock the relic's secrets, Pike and Number One deal with a group of zealots who want to prevent the USS Enterprise from interfering. So this episode is largely told from the perspective of our cadet, and I'll let you say her name. Is it Ahura or Uhura or
It's Uhura. Yeah.
Uhura? Okay,
Uh-huh.
who
Yeah.
who is in the original series?
Yes. Famously played
Obviously,
by Nichelle Nichols. Yes.
yes. May she rest in peace.
Yes.
And she's a little bit younger in this show. Um, And so basically, we learn a lot about her. She knows, I think she says like 30 something languages.
Yeah.
Um, she studied linguistics in her home country. They spoke like 22 different dialects or languages. So she kind of had to learn.
So this is the
And
first time we've ever heard this is the first time we've ever heard that she's from Kenya. So there's a lot of so in this series we're gonna start learning more and more about some of the characters that we love and some of their backstory. So this was
very
fun that
cool.
we
Yeah.
got to know that we get to know her a little bit more other than the capable, you know, uh prodigy that she is on the Enterprise, on Kirk's Enterprise.
Sure. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that too. So I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask you if we already knew that about her backstory.
Yeah, no, we
Um,
didn't know. It's great. I guess we're jumping in.
yeah.
But yeah, no, we didn't know that she's from Kenya. Her parents were killed in a shuttle accident along with we didn't know that she had a sibling, a brother, or that Starfleet wasn't even like a top choice, which was really, really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
really, really interesting and fun to like
Yeah, it was.
explore.
Yeah, the fact they gave her that motivation, because in this episode, as you said at the beginning, she isn't really sure that Starfleet is for her, and that even joining wasn't necessarily something that she was particularly committed to. And Spock tells her, well, like if you're not dedicated to this, I mean, there's a lot of people who this is their dream job. So
Yeah,
if you're not fully in, then you should consider stepping aside to make room for someone who is committed.
Yeah.
And this episode is her first away assignment. And so she's pretty unsure of herself, doesn't know what's going to happen. And her first away assignment is on this speeding comet, hurtling through space, going to plow into Persephone 3. Is that what it's called?
Persephone, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Persephone, I believe, is the Greek god of agriculture.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, I liked this. They pretty quickly decided we're going to save these millions of people. They didn't debate. They're like, this is the right thing to do. We're just going to do it.
What's
You know?
millions of people? It's this pretty dry agrarian society living, in huts with plants that
no
are barely
technology.
surviving. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because they don't really have technology, they have the freedom to zip around in the space above them without being detected. So there's no danger of breaking the prime directive or anything like that. And like you said, the planet is very dry. It's inhabitable, but it's not a great place to be.
It's barely.
Yeah. So at first they just kind of launch some torpedoes at it, but then they find out there's like a shield around the comet. And they're like, that was weird. There's a shield around a comet. So that's why they transport down, and they get down there and they find this big egg with these like runes on it. And it's kind of organic sort of technology, and they can't communicate with it. They don't really know what's going on. They get trapped on the comet because the shields go up and it traps them there. So they have to figure out what's going on. And while they're there, the shepherds, which is this alien ship who has been shepherding this comet, hails the Enterprise and says, hey, like, just so you know, this is our like sacred, almost like prophet, and for generations we have been protecting it and shepherding it across the galaxy, and it's like their god, and it's sacrilegious to intervene with its will and what it's doing. And they say, like, if it chooses to hit the planet, then that's its will. That's destiny. But it's like a giver of life. If it chooses to avoid the planet, then it will. And they tell Enterprise, like, if you interfere, we're going to destroy you. And this ship is massive. Mm-hmm. And Enterprise scans their technology, and Enterprise is way outgunned. And so they have to basically, I mean, they need to save their crew. And then Pike is also set on also saving this civilization. And so Uhura, because she's down there and she knows languages, she's a prodigy at it, like you said, she starts to decipher these runes on this egg. She determines that they start to notice that there's like, when she hums, because we find out that she like kind of hums and sings when she's nervous or anxious, and they start to notice that it starts singing her tune back to her. And so she's like, oh, well, if it understands music, music is this like universal language, like harmonics is math based and stuff like that. So I wonder if this code is music. So she starts to kind of crack the code and then figures out the song, and enlists Spock to sing with her. So they kind of harmonize this song. It's this like hilarious scene with Spock singing.
Yeah.
They both have great voices. So they sing, the egg responds, shields come down. They are able to transport back to Enterprise. At that point, the shepherds attack the Enterprise. Enterprise takes evasive maneuvers. They fly into the comet because Pike has an idea. they feign that the Enterprise is disabled, but they get near the comet knowing that the shepherds will never shoot them near the comet. And they tell the shepherds, we're stuck. Our systems are down. Our trillium, is that what he calls it? Will
Trilithium. Yeah.
trilithium. I knew I was
Yeah.
going to mess it up.
No, you're
Um,
good.
trilithium is going to
Star
collapse and
Trek mumbo
explode.
jumbo.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to collapse and explode. It's going to destroy the comet. So you have to tractor beam us away. And if you destroy us, same thing's going to happen. So you have to help us. And it's just a diversion because Spock is on a shuttle. Spock then uses the heat shields of his shuttle
Yeah.
to basically create sublimation, where the heat heats up the water on the comet, which creates gases, which creates like a propulsion effect, which steers the comet away. And it's just enough to miss the planet, but at the same time, it creates water in the atmosphere of Persephone 3, and then you get to see the villagers on the planet experience rain, and they're elated about that.
Yeah.
And Pike basically makes peace with the shepherds, and they say to Pike, "We told you that this thing was a god, and it has its own will, and it follows its destiny, and you shouldn't have intervened." And you see it, this, Mahonet is our god, and it chose life. And um so they're like, they part ways or whatever. And then they're cracking the code more, and they see that actually the code was showing that it was going to miss. And not only that, the image that it had projected was exactly what they saw after the fact. So the message she decoded was transmitted before Spock had done his thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like, oh, it really did have foresight. It actually did know what was going to happen. And even if Enterprise was the thing creating that change, it foresaw it and potentially caused it. And the shepherds, in a way, were right. Even though they're zealots and, you know, uh, acting like this thing is God. I don't know if anybody buys that, but they had a point to a degree.
Yes.
And also, I would add to that the fact that the planet, this barren, dry planet, was called Persephone, named after the god of agriculture, adds to that because after the fact, now it's going to be a lush planet, and Enterprise basically says that all of that water is going to create a lush environment that'll allow life to flourish and stuff like that. And so the fact that it was called Persephone before these events, I think, does add to the fact that this was a foretold event. And so
100%. 100%.
yeah.
100%.
So those are the broad strokes. Yeah. Anything you wanted to add to that? I mean, there's a lot to it, but
I mean, there's a lot to that, but
yeah.
I mean, so okay, first of all, kind of going back to last week's episode,
Yeah.
we meet
Mhm.
Hemmer, the chief engineer. He's an
Sure.
Enar,
Yeah.
blind Andorian, gray Andorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call an albino Andorian?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Gray, though, not white, but yeah, gray. A gray albino blind Enar
Which
chief engineer.
which we know, which I know from Enterprise, is this like species on Andor that's not treated so nicely.
Yeah.
They're like the pariahs of
Yes,
Andorians.
and I mean
Yeah.
and if it wasn't for, and that was world building within itself, and I think I said this, when we watched Enterprise. I was like, oh, that's where the Enar
Yeah,
come from, because in every other iteration of franchise, there was no mention of a sub
sure.
lower level Andorian
Yeah,
subspecies, kind
a
of
lower class.
a lower
And by
class. Yeah.
and by the way, I think it was on Fandom that said the Enars are the albinos
Okay.
of
Okay.
Andorians.
That makes sense. That totally makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
which I, I think the only difference in them is they are lacking the pigmentation, but I think they have magical abilities too, right? Don't they have
Yeah,
special
they have like
abilities?
enhanced senses because they're blind. Every other
Yeah,
sense, and my guess is that the antenna that they have also play much more of a role in the way that
right.
they sense things. So going back to that, and I love that Pike is like a cook. Like, he
Yeah.
invites everyone to the quarters, and I love that. And then I love that, this was an Uhura driven episode,
Hmm.
to a large extent. And I like how they balance it a little bit with Pike in there as well. But this is very much an Uhura character driven episode, and we learn, and she has to go through the hazing. Uh,
Yeah.
um, the Enterprise bingo, as it were, or whatever. Um,
Right. Right.
that she has to endure. Ortega says dress uniform, and everyone's
Yeah.
casual. Um, and
I
that we
love
get
seeing that dress uniform. Just I thought that was a cool touch. I don't know if I've seen that before. So
okay,
they
okay,
have a
yeah,
they have a dress uniform.
yeah, no, yes, there is, and it's the first time we get to see it in this kind of iteration, because we see it with the captain and others in other, but it's very cool to see the cadet have the dress uniform as well. So yeah, and then it goes into, and then we talked about how there was backstory that, you know Uhura's parents and her brother are killed in a shuttle accident, and that she was going to go, uh to the university there, and this one unfortunate accident changes and alters her life, and she only joined Starfleet because her grandmother talked about it, which was really interesting. And it's really really interesting to see where Nyota Uhura comes from and who she is at this point in her life and this point in her career, and that she's not so sure about herself. Obviously, she's a cadet. She's struggling a
Mhm.
little bit, having to grapple with, I don't know, it's 50-50 whether we live or die. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. Um, totally agree. And then the fact that she saved the day and now she's on board. Like she believed in herself. They helped her believe in herself as well. And there's a reason why she was there.
yeah,
She did belong there. She had the abilities that they needed. The whole episode was revolved around her. I mean, she was the hero in this one. And
yep,
so, you know, I got to think that was just a huge confidence boost for her, and that was
for
a big
sure,
moment for her character to whatever uncertainty she had. It's got to some degree be diminished, if not totally. So
definitely,
yeah,
definitely. And then
yeah, yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, because we're so early in this series, I think it'd be nice to go through the main characters. So you talked about Commander Hemmer, who is the chief engineer.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, so Ortega is the helmsman.
Ortegas is the helmsperson. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, and then Laan is what?
Laan Noonien Singh is the chief of security and, you know and weapons officer,
Okay,
tactical
and then
officer, I should say.
right, and then obviously Spike is the science officer.
Spock is
No,
Spock is the science
number
officer.
number one is second in command.
Yeah.
Chapel is a
The
nurse. Is that what?
nurse
Okay,
Chapel. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. And
and
then who?
Doctor
What's his name?
and Doctor Joseph Mbenga, who was not in this episode, but
Mbenga.
yeah,
Right. Okay. Okay. And then obviously Kirk's brother is there. I don't even know
yep,
what his role is.
he's a science officer, but
Okay.
he's a not obviously not the chief science officer. He's just a science officer under Spock.
Okay.
And I think he says, if I remember correctly, that he's a xenobiologist.
Oh, okay. Um, I forget. We knew about him before.
Yeah,
Was he always
only a little bit though. Only a little bit.
okay? He's kind of a jackass in this episode. He
I mean, a
is
little bit.
he's very reckless.
Yeah, a little
Gets
bit. A little bit like
almost
Jim.
gets himself killed.
Yeah,
Basically, they had to restart his heart. They had to use like an AED that apparently they carried around. And
that's pretty handy to know that tricorders have a like built-in defibrillator. I was like, oh, that's new.
yeah,
But that's cool.
yeah. So okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's good. I think early in this, just trying to keep track of everyone.
Yep.
So
And that's really good to point out because for me, we're getting back into the character-driven Star Trek. So yeah, everyone will get an episode, which is awesome.
yeah, like in Discovery, we didn't even know the names
No,
of
yeah, I know.
half of them
Yeah,
until
I
like
know.
the end of season one, if
Right,
that.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
So
what, and not to rehash this, but that was one of my disappointments. I love the character-driven episodes.
yeah, I mean that was my favorite part of Enterprise. I mean, particularly with our podcast, that
Right.
it felt like they were like our family,
Right.
all of those
Right, exactly.
characters.
And I think we'll get there with this one as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do hope they kind of do that thing where, like you're saying, like the bingo thing, like they'll pick a different one because I felt like La'an was kind of that in the last episode. It was kind of her episode, and so
Yeah.
hopefully they kind of do that for each one.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
interesting that's interesting that you mentioned that now. I mean, yes, to a very much. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, because they're talking about the Gorn killing her family,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. No, yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
So anyway, I cut you off. What do you know what you're going to say earlier?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just about to say, this is another one of those episodes in Star Trek where a thing may not be a thing.
Oh,
Yeah, so Mahani, the comet,
yeah.
and this may be thinking about it too much and too deeply
Hmm.
into it, but I kind of, because they've done it before, but I kind of agree with La'an that
Sure,
it's potentially not just a comet, but like a spacecraft,
sure,
an alien spacecraft from like, you know, a millennia ago. And
sure,
interestingly enough, using music notes as coordinates as a navigational system. I mean, I can't imagine like an alien society, like how we visit Persephone, and that's a Greek god of
hmm
agriculture. And I would like to even expand it to, to even think that Mahanit, that this alien culture was almost a Greek explorer type uh
Oh,
science-based, society back in its heyday when, aliens built this structure, this temple on this comet and used it for flight or some sort of transport or some sort of boat, uh,
sure.
if you will, in space.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think it has to be that to some degree. Obviously, it has some
Yeah,
technological
could
abilities.
be. Yeah,
Well,
because there are other times in other I know original series has a comet that has a spaceshipy kind of dealy.
Really?
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to travel for a very long time, using a comet for propulsion would be a slow but very
Yeah.
effective way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could go for millions of years on the
Right.
comet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, but I mean, we did see the egg open up, and it's not like there was a dinosaur inside of it or
Right.
something.
Right, 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 right.
Because I was expecting it to hatch some kind of monster.
Yeah, now I didn't
That
think
didn't
that was
happen.
going to go that way. I was like, oh, I'd be a little disappointed if it did like hatch like a velociraptor. And Spock goes, "You bred raptors."
You, oh, clever girl.
Clever
Um,
girl. We
just a
clocked a
couple.
T-Rex at 40 miles an hour. You have a T-Rex. Sorry, sorry. Do not go down that.
Um,
We're not
just a
going down
couple.
Jurassic Park. No. Mm-mm, no.
You mentioned Spock. So in this episode, Spock, like when they're at the captain's table,
Yeah.
Pike is telling a story. You know, he's a natural leader. He kind of has everybody's attention. He's telling this funny story. He mentions Nausicaans, where there was this situation where there was a Nausicaan with no pants, and they were like, there was a chase, and he tripped over the Nausicaan's pants. And everyone was laughing at the story except for Spock, and Spock just
Yeah.
notes like, "You're laughing at misfortune." And I always thought it was interesting how humans do that. But then later on in the episode, he
Yeah.
laughs and he goes, "Sometimes the only thing to do is laugh." I thought
Luckily,
that
it's on Paramount Plus because I had to rewind it.
okay,
So
yeah,
I'm like, did he laugh? Like the first time
yeah,
I ever watched it, I was like, oh yeah, he did laugh. And he
yeah.
is a little bit more emotional, this young Spock is.
He
A little
is,
more
yeah,
emotional, this young Spock is. Come on. He's a little more
hmm,
emotional, yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, definitely last episode too. I mean, he was, in the throes of passion.
Yes. But yeah,
Um,
I love that. I
yeah,
love that you mentioned that because there is that growth, right? He's observational
sure, yeah,
and they make him like this outsider, but then he gets in touch with that human side that he does have in him.
right, exactly. And then obviously with Pike, they're really keen on this idea of, as you probably know from watching the other stuff, that he dies or appears to die.
Hmm.
And now we know that he knows he's going to die because of
Yeah.
the time crystal. In last episode, they touched on this a lot. And then also in this episode,
Oh yeah.
where he it's always on his mind and it drives his motivations and his actions,
Hmm.
that he thinks he's going to die in 10 years.
Hmm.
And he's like kind of grappling with the meaning of that and how he wants to live his life and wants to maximize his helpfulness and his impact on the world. He wants to leave the world a better place. And so, a lot of it centers around, in his head, he thinks that he's going to save these children and in the process will die. And number one's telling him, well, like, yeah, but now you have the benefit of knowing the result. So can't you make decisions that make it such that you save them and you live?
Right.
And that's like a revelation to him, because I think in his head it was just predetermined. There's nothing he could do to do both. But she kind of opens up him up to the possibility that he can like prepare for this moment.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the episode ends, is him researching these children.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because he believes he can figure out a way to, master whatever this thing that's going to happen such that he
Yeah,
can save them and live.
yeah. And yes, and this is going to be a theme throughout season one. It's going to play out very much on his mind, and there's going to be subtle hints or even direct hints. And I love that this is the way that the episode ends, more or less, when he and number one are having a private moment and they're talking about the comet, and you know, they're talking about how it was kind of a message about the future, right? And how the comet predicted its path and its, whatever the case might be. But then it it shifts subtly and he goes, "Oh, we're not talking about the comet now. We're talking
Right,
about me."
right. Yep.
And I love that little I love those little moments between the characters. And then and then by himself he brings up the computer, and it's amazing, and he's obsessive. He brings up the names of some of the kids who are kids now, but in 10
Right,
years they will be, or in however long they will be cadets that he is going to save their lives. And
right.
that you have to sit with that, and he has to sit with that.
Yeah. And there's like a subtle thing where they, show how it's on his mind, where there's like this fire and he's like kind of staring into the fire,
Yeah,
and he's thinking about how he's going to get burned
yeah.
alive.
And
And without
I
yeah,
think he does it too. And I didn't realize it until this one, where he does it a couple of times, but they're under attack. They were under attack by the shepherds, and he turns around and there's this lapse. There's these lapses of his, like, he kind of freezes. And you're like, "Oh, that's him trying to decide what direction in which to go, knowing that this future, or this potential future that he might have, um is bearing on him." And you
yeah,
can kind of see it in this episode. There's other places where I think we'll see it again, but
yeah. I do hope that however this series concludes, that they figure out a way to keep him alive without breaking the lore, even if it's a
oh, sure.
misdirection where it's like everybody thinks he's dead but he's actually alive. um like he has to fake his death to avoid
So
some enemy or
that's
something, or
where in last week's episode I said, oh, maybe it was in the cage. No, I think it was last week's episode. When let's halt it a little. Let's slow the death thing down, because
sure.
death is, it can be taken in so many ways. So yeah,
Yeah, like what if there's a situation where he's a wanted man and he has to escape them by faking death? This would be the perfect cover,
yeah,
because he's been broadcasting that he's going to die.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
knows
yeah, yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then it happens. And if he needed to disappear, that'd be a great way to disappear.
Right.
And then when I assume you're talking about the original series, when we
Yes.
learn that he's dead, maybe everybody thinks he's dead. Unless there's a body that we see in the original series where it's impossible that he would be.
Maybe. Maybe.
But
Maybe.
so I just hope that, because he's a
You
great
may
character.
say that, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay. Yeah. In due time, we'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
Little hint, little homage there to Sir Ian Richardson and the House of Cards, the original one, the better one.
Oh boy. Okay.
Just like The Office.
Shocking. Shocking you think the English one is better.
Just like The Office.
Let me pick my jaw off the floor. Well, Jason, I love this episode. I thought it was great. Very, very good. I'd give it like a 95.
Yeah.
Um, as you know, I like to nitpick. Wasn't totally sold that they wouldn't detect Spock's shuttle, given how advanced the Shepards
Yeah.
were.
I get that. I get that. I get that. I was like, where did he launch the shuttle? And he just appears underneath a piece of comet debris. Or, I mean, yeah, debris. I guess there's
Yeah,
so much interference that you have to bring uh the Imperial capital ship out of the asteroid field to send a clear transmission. So there's so
right.
much debris and so much stuff that it's interfering with sensors. I don't know. But yeah, I
But I
totally
mean,
agree.
these Shepards seem just crazy advanced. It doesn't seem like anything would get by them
Yeah, no.
undetected.
Yeah, it's also which was odd that I'm like, in my mind. Okay, I might get into trouble a little bit from supporters, viewers, commenters, people on the internet, trolls, whatever. But as you say that, and I've been wanting to say it, I'm like, these fanatical zealots
Hmm.
usually are the ones that hold back advancement, technology,
Right. Yeah.
science,
Right.
and
Right.
yet, so they must be also like really, 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 really old.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
really old as a species, as an alien species,
Definitely.
to be zealots and yet at the same time have the more advanced starship.
Right. Right. They couldn't even like tell you the origin of their technology. It's just
Right.
become, yeah,
Right.
their religion
Exactly.
almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah, it's a
anyways,
it's a great point. Usually those things go in opposite directions.
yeah, usually.
Yeah. Hmm.
But maybe they found a way. Or they
Interesting.
stole it for
Interesting.
Mahanit in the name of Mahanit.
Right. And then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where do you think they stole it from?
Some other defenseless, scientifically advanced alien species that were only out there to observe and created a dangerous and created an advanced starship, and they were able to steal it from them. I don't know.
Interesting.
All in the name of Mahanit.
Hmm. Okay.
Anyways,
Um, yeah, and then also this comet being supposedly ancient sure was breaking apart a lot. And I don't know if it would have enough mass to leave that much of a trail and still have something left. Like if it's
yeah,
continuously shedding that much,
yeah.
doesn't
It
seem
was
like there'd be
definitely
much
an
left.
asteroid and
An
then
asteroid. Okay.
become smaller potentially.
Yeah.
Or like a larger piece of a planetoid body.
It was shedding quite a bit.
Yeah, by this
I
time, it's a
yeah.
comet.
I did like how the inhabitants of Persephone 3 could see the comet
Mm-hmm.
and it preceded this magical event, this rain. And I guarantee that for generations, for millennia, that became this, omen that was talked about. Like that was a gift from the gods. Like, and like, I don't know, I couldn't help but think of Game of Thrones. So in Game of Thrones, there's this comet in the sky, and like right afterwards the dragons are born, so the comet was an omen that magic is coming back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And or you think of like the Christ story
Yeah, right.
with the bright star in the sky that the wise men used to predict the birth of Christ. Like, it's a
Right.
thing. It's a trope. It's a thing.
Yeah. I kind of figured like that was a thing, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Early humanoid society. You see a thing.
Yeah. It's got to be God.
Yeah,
There's no other explanation.
right.
There was one other. So we're talking about the Pike thing, his constant fixation on his future death.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. They're doing it very well, but it is one of those things that we've talked about a lot where they have to do that
Yeah.
to um I don't know. It's like they have to address it, right? Because we know he's going to die, and and there could be some retconniness
Yeah.
where they have to create a situation where they were like they're worried about the retcon or something,
Yeah.
and they're setting it up so that it's not this massive retcon. But then, as we always talk about on our podcast, does it beg the question then that they shouldn't tell this story? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like we talk about in Discovery, how advanced the ship Discovery
Yeah.
was, and then they have to explain away
Yeah.
why that technology doesn't exist later on. Well, because it
Yeah.
went into the future. So then it begs the question: well, should you have told this story in the first place? Then,
Right.
if you had to jump through all these hoops for it to make sense.
And this is where I think Discovery and I think I said this. I was like, I didn't understand why they picked that of all things to
Exactly.
like show. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if you're a Star Trek, if you're a fan, you know what's gonna happen, but at the same time, it would have been because I don't think it's interesting that they made that choice because in the what if universe, because we're now all getting into the what if universe or alternate multiverse or whatever the case might be, I'm not entirely certain that they would have done that if they had a clean slate and if this wasn't an offshoot of what Discovery told.
Sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's hard to say, but it does make for interesting television. Like it really makes for an interesting part of the storyline where it makes him there's that duality, not duality per se, but like he is generally usually authoritative, confident, decisive. Not authoritative, decisive is much more of a. But then you have those moments of like, orders, Captain, what are we doing? And he freezes like deer in headlights for like a second. And you know that it's because he's thinking about what decision do I make? And it's not like it couldn't be like any of us, what decision do we make in that moment under attack or whatever the case might be, right? Just as people, like what do we do? But with that in his mind because he sees it in his pad and he sees himself in visions or whatever, that's very much on his mind, and that's partially why he freezes, even though he's incredibly decisive as a character in general. But going back to your point, I'm not entirely certain like they would have they I don't know if they would have made that same choice if they would have had a clean slate. Because I think you could
Right.
have been more interesting
Mm-hmm.
without it.
Yep.
But because Discovery took us there, we now have to, and I and
Right.
I
Right. Right.
and I
Right.
say it's much more of a Discovery thing than it is a Strange New Worlds thing.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah.
But it does
So
make for interesting, like, what do I do? Character development.
absolutely. Yeah.
Knowing that this thing is going to happen. or could
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this is me nitpicking. It
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah, no.
it's,
And I think,
yeah.
yeah, and it's not a criticism of the nitpicking. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to go back again to Discovery. They're the ones who are like, ah!
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, what about you? What rating would you give this one? What rank would
Yeah,
you give it?
it's this is a uh, this is the captain's pip. This is I try not to give too many admirals
I
pips.
hear you. Yeah.
Um, but darn close, and yeah, I loved every moment of it.
Right. Right. Cool. Glad we're in
It
agreement there.
is fascinating though to
Yeah.
see like the comparison and contrast, like Discovery to SNW, where I'm like, there were a lot of just meh, okay episodes in
Sure.
in Disco thus far into 2 seasons. But
Yeah.
like right off the bat, I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is really good storytelling.
Absolutely.
And
Totally
it went
agree.
back to basics.
Totally agree. Yeah. It feels episodic, but not too much. Is the perfect balance between a larger arc, but still self-contained. It's like perfectly done. And the only other thing I wanted to say was that the production, uh, obviously, as time goes on, it gets cheaper to make things that look good. But like,
Yeah.
it's amazing how polished and good the CGI is, and stuff like that. Like it looks like a $200 million movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like when they're flying through the comet, or even just like the comet going by the planet, and just the action in space. Um, it looks so good because like even in Enterprise, like I don't know if you remember when they had the like whatever Federation was called at that time, they had a meeting on a planet where all the species convened,
Oh
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
they had a shot of the city, and it looked like a 1980s music video,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
computer, like,
yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure this show is expensive budget wise, but
Yeah, oh, I'm sure it is.
it can't be like, hundreds of millions of dollars, but it looks like it is. Like it
Yeah,
looks amazing.
yeah, yeah. It
So
totally does. I'm
yeah.
100% agree with you. And again, it's not a perfect episode. I do have my little nitpicky kind of dealios in the episode. But yeah, Captain's Pips.
Yeah. And the comet thing was totally an Empire Strikes Back feel of them flying through the comet,
Totally.
asteroids. Loved that.
Ortegas Gamma 1.
That was hilarious. Well, speaking of Star Wars,
Star
are
Wars,
you
yes.
did you watch
I
Skeleton
did.
Crew?
Yep,
So
I'm fully caught up.
okay, so we don't have to talk about it too much,
Okay.
but I enjoyed it. It got better as it went on.
It did get better. It did
Yeah,
get better. And you know what? I agreed with you. I agree with you 100%. I had to slog through episode four.
four was
Four.
terrible.
Four. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
what is this?
yeah,
And then it got better and better. And episode 8 was really good.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really good. I
yeah.
still not our thing I'm taking, but
No, yeah,
like I
not our
liked it.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's um
I have so many questions though. I'm like, did we get to know what the parents do really?
the great work.
Yeah. And that's the Republic credits.
Yeah. They were on
Okay.
autopilot.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, I get, yeah.
they it was unintended consequences. They perfected the process of minting gold. They put a droid. Oh, spoilers alert! If you haven't seen it, stop
Yeah.
listening if you haven't seen it. But they, the Republic needed a mint to mint
Yeah.
credits. It was obviously going to be a target for pirates and stuff, and I don't know why they put it in the like outer rim or whatever. Maybe that was a stupid move, but they had to obscure it's basically a bank vault. So
Right.
they
Right.
obscured it by erasing it from the maps and putting a barrier around it so that no one could get in and steal the gold.
Right.
But in their pursuit of perfection, they put a droid in charge who ran it perfectly.
Yep.
The issue is then the Republic's been gone for, at this point, what, 40 years, 30 years?
30 years. 30
30
years.
years.
Yeah. 30, 40 years. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously something's wrong. They haven't collected a shipment in 30 years.
Right.
But because this droid is programmed to do what it does, it just kept chugging along and everyone followed along and they kept making money for no reason.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then I'm sure.
Like, so this is a very elaborate bank heist. In
Yeah,
the end,
exactly.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And you needed people old enough to remember that this was
Yeah.
a Republic vault mint, I should say. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, kind of boring that it could have been
Yeah.
anything. It could have been a Jedi temple. It could have been,
Yeah.
it could have been the Andor version of the jail, where
Could
it's
have
like
been.
you find out they're building an army or they're
Yeah.
building the machines of war,
Yeah.
and that was revealed in a
And
way
see,
that
that's what
yeah
I thought was,
yeah
they're still building,
First Order's
you know,
fleet or something.
right, exactly. They're
Yeah,
still building droids or
right.
battle droids or whatever the case might be, or whatever. That was a little more integral to
Hmm.
kind of the universe.
Yeah. So it was good.
It was a
Um,
fun adventure. It was a fun
not,
adventure.
but again, not for us.
Yeah, no, not for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun 8 episodes. It was a fun 8 episodes. And Na Wood, not knowing
Yeah.
really. I mean, he's just a pirate.
Yeah. I haven't checked yet, but I guarantee you there will be speculation trying to identify the Jedi that pulled him out of the hole when he was a kid and taught him a little bit of the
Of
Force.
the four. Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, she was killed. So, I'm sure there will be people trying to theorize that it was a Jedi that we knew. Maybe, maybe that information is out there.
When they said she, what was your, did you have a, my
I,
first instinct was, oh, it was Satine. Not Satine. Uh, uh,
for me, I was just thinking of
not
old,
Kit Fisto, but
the Twi'lek.
one of the prequel.
So for me, in my head I was thinking the Twi'lek one with the
Yeah.
appendages.
Her. Yeah,
Yeah,
and she gets
her.
cut down by Order 66.
Yeah. So she's the first one I thought of, and then I was thinking maybe Yaddle. Mm.
Oh,
Um, but then once I did that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop this because, as we talked about, every time I come up with a Star Wars theory, I just get burned. Um, it's never satisfying.
It's
it's
always a little
always
hinge of disappointment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's never comes to fruition, or it's never worth it. Um, so I've just
never
given up.
lives up to the expectation you built
Yeah,
up in your head. Yeah, I
yeah,
get that.
exactly.
Yeah,
So I think I
yeah,
told you last time that piece of my brain that
yeah.
was dedicated to Star Wars theorizing has just been bludgeoned to a pulp,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
and I think I just
For
refuse to
like
do
a
it
hot
anymore.
second, though, I agree. Like, I think
Yeah,
we're thinking about the same one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The one who
I
gets
think her name is
killed by the
Satine.
mushrooms,
Oh,
killed in the forest of mushrooms in
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Revenge
gonna
of the
get
Sith.
roasted for not knowing her name. But anyways,
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not like they speak her name in the
I
movie.
know, I know, I
Yeah,
know. But still,
yeah.
fellow
So
fans,
yeah, it's fine. It's
how
fine,
dare
man.
you not know that?
She might not even have a canon name. It's possible
It
that her
could
name is
be. It
only
could be. It
exists
could
in
be.
books or comic books or something. So
It's true because in a lot of ways, no, in almost every way, this series, no canonical character,
right,
like
right,
not even a recognizable X-wing pilot to save the day to destroy the pirate ship.
right. I think the only repeat is one of the guys is from Mando, one of the pirates. The
Oh, okay, okay,
first
okay.
mate, the first mate, orange skinned dude with like
Oh,
the
the orange skin
tentacles.
guy.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Mm.
yeah. I can't remember his name, but
Okay. Okay.
yeah, he is from Mando
Okay. Okay.
as
Okay.
as the pirate
As
guy.
the pirate. Right, 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 right,
Yeah,
right, right, right. I am a little disappointed. I did love the owl guy,
yeah. Hmm.
the one that had friends connected back to what is this? The Resistance now? No, this is the New Republic now.
It's the New Republic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
That was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was cool. That was a pretty badass space battle when the X-wings came. I enjoyed that, and the B-wings came.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we don't get a lot of B-wings
No, we don't. We do
in the live
not.
action
We
stuff,
do not. We do not.
and they had those like special lasers that they weren't like pulses; they were like a consistent
Yeah,
stream.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That
So I
was
always
new.
thought that B-wings were known because they're bombers.
So B-wing, here's the thing: B-wings and X-wings, as far as their capabilities and their armament,
Uh-huh.
is basically identical. The
Oh,
only difference is that X-wings are faster and much more maneuverable.
right.
But as far as what they carry,
Oh,
they're
okay, okay,
basically
okay,
identical to
okay.
X-wings. At least until now. Now they have these laser things,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
but
Because
the bombers you see like in Return of the Jedi and stuff, those are Y wings, and basically all they have is bombs.
oh, okay, 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 okay.
Yeah,
Because that was the only reason I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense in my mind. I'm like, a B-wing is there because it's a big pirate ship and you can drop bombs on
right,
it
right.
and
Yeah,
not have to hit little dinky TIE fighters.
yeah. So Y wings basically only drop bombs, and they have one little rinky-dink cannon on the front that does like
Ah,
nothing.
okay, 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 okay.
Yeah. And then the A wings are the smaller, super fast ones, and they have no bombs. They have nothing but cannons, and
Lasers.
they're super fast, and they have
Okay,
like four cannons. And
okay.
and the A wing is the one that crashes into the Super Star Destroyer into the
Right, right, right,
bridge
right, right,
and
right, right,
kills
right.
Admiral Piet, I believe.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um,
The green one. Green
uh, pro-
five, green leader.
Probably, yeah, yeah. These are all things you learn when you play a lot of Rogue Squadron, and so like you have the choice of a ship, and you're like, well, I would never pick a B wing because it's exactly the same as an X wing. It's just slower and harder to maneuver. And so
Right.
if you get into a dogfight, you're screwed.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and it even like the wings even collapse the same way, except instead of like expanding out, they like kind of turn
Right. And then the
with the B wing.
cockpit then has to rotate because
Yeah,
it like rotates on its axis, right? Or something?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So like if they're going to go into hyperspace, the wings collapse,
Right.
and
And
they
it
go into
turns
attack
up,
position.
right? With
Yeah,
the gun thing on the bottom and then the cockpit up on top.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I can
Does
tell
it
you
deserve
this.
a second season?
No, no way.
Well,
I hope.
I think they talk about it, right?
I,
I think the rumor mill like talks
ugh.
about like, oh, it's gonna get a second season and
They
that the
left the door
Acolyte
open
didn't.
with Jod being alive. They left the door open.
They did.
But do you care enough about any of these characters to watch another season? I don't.
I don't, but
Yeah.
how many seasons did the Afterlife Scepter show that you mentioned that it's based on did it go for?
Oh, Stranger Things?
Oh, Stranger Things. Okay, yes, that
Yeah.
one. Exactly.
So they are filming another season currently.
Oh, it's still
And
going
so
on.
yeah. So I think the answer to your question is six.
Oh, it's still going on. I thought,
Yeah.
okay, this whole time, I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about a series that happened when we were like in the
No.
2000s. Like,
It started when they were little kids and now they're like in their 20s. So yeah, I mean,
no,
it
no, no,
had
like 2000, like this was like a 2001, 2002,
no,
2003, and it ran for 4 seasons.
probably like 2013, 2014 is when it
Oh,
started.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So I thought it was like, okay, here's where I'm so behind. Where I thought you were talking about a series that was like that rivaled uh what is the one with
Sarah Michelle
Sarah
Gellar, like
Gellar?
Buffy?
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah,
mean Buffy?
Buffy. I thought it
Okay.
ran parallel to that.
No,
Oh, okay. Never mind.
no. This one is like intentionally retro. It stylistically is like shot as if it's like a Spielberg ET or
Oh,
whatever,
okay,
or
okay, okay,
yeah, Goonies or whatever. Even
okay.
though,
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Ooh.
I wouldn't recommend watching it. Stranger
Yeah, I'm
Things.
not going to.
Yeah,
No worries on that one, buddy.
you'll enjoy it, but it's not going to change your life. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And we're less than 100 days until season 2 of Andor. So get excited for that.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
all right. I am excited for that.
yeah.
I am
So
very
it'll be.
excited for that. We're gonna have to start charging people for listening to the two-parter when Andor comes out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Double
Couple,
admission, double the price for admission on the content.
exactly. Um,
I'm just kidding.
the only other thing I wanted to say was there's a chance someone listening to this is listening to it because of my TikTok account.
Oh,
TikTok is supposed to close down on Sunday,
in the
and
United States only.
right. Um, so if you, for some reason, are listening to this and you also follow me on TikTok, please follow me on YouTube because the shorts that I put on TikTok, I put the exact same ones on YouTube Shorts. So that will be my main platform unless somebody intervenes and saves TikTok. There's lots and lots of rumors. I saw Mr. Beast was trying to save it. I saw Elon Musk might save it. I saw Trump was saying he might do an executive order.
Yeah, I was about to
Biden,
say the orange-haired
yeah,
Mr.
Biden
Orange.
today announced he's trying to save it.
It does very well for
Um,
me. It does very well for me. I think.
yeah, The only, interestingly, the only people not saying they're going to save it is ByteDance, the company who owns TikTok. They're like, no, screw all of you. We're closing down on Sunday. They're like, if someone were to buy it, it's impossible to transition. Our algorithm is so complex and entrenched with us. There's no way to transfer it over.
Mm-hmm.
So not worth it. Go to hell. We don't need you.
It can survive outside of the United States. Who cares? Third world. It's becoming. I'm not going to finish what I was going to say.
Yeah. 1984. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Along those lines. Or for those fans, you know, a sports drink because plants need it.
Yeah. Idiocracy. Yeah.
I didn't say it.
All right, man.
All
Well,
right,
thank you.
Captain.
Thanks everyone for listening. Follow us on all the stuff, including YouTube. Thanks for watching and listening, I should say. Jason, it's always a pleasure.
Mon
And
Capitan.
yeah, everyone, until next time, live long and prosper.
And may the force be with you.
See ya.